All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to say, Call Allah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rucha HaKudash, and double honors to the elders and apostles, great millstone, who taught us the truth and rule well, and Shalom to the hopeful elect, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rucha HaKudash, Barakatam. It's the brother Kazak coming back at it again with another lesson. All right, and the title of this lesson is going to be, Did Polygamy End Badly for the Men of the Lord? All right. And when I say polygamy, I don't mean, the modern, definition where, this is something that pertains to both genders, but rather, the true order of how it's supposed to be, where a man, if he desires to do so, can have more than one wife as long as he deals with them in righteousness, and ultimately, a man does not cheat. That's another thing too, because the society, they like to, put that a stigma on the men, because he got, he got his main girl, and then he got a side girl, a side chick that's, wicked, that's evil, when the only thing, you could really say that's not, righteous about that is, the fact that he's not really, maintaining her, according to the law. That's the only thing you could argue. But the fact of the matter of having, more than one woman, that's not wicked. All right, it's actually biblical. Now, one of the arguments that I was faced with by these wacky tacky Christians, concerning this very topic is they like to give the example, their favorite examples would be King David and King Solomon. How they ended up bad because, for the sole reason of having more than one woman, and this is far from the truth, man. All right, this is very, very far from the truth, okay? And we're going to break it down. The real reason why, King David and King Solomon, got judged, and it's not for having more than one woman. See, having multiple wives is our God-given right. Okay, if a man chooses to have more than one woman, that's his prerogative. That's his right. And the Lord allows it. Nowhere in the law does it say it is wicked for a man to have more than one wife. All right, now you're going to have, Christians that are going to come out and say, oh, well, the Bible says, don't commit adultery. Okay, well, let's go into the Hebrew. All right, let's get into the Hebrew. Because scriptures tell you what adultery is. See, when people say, all right, thou shalt not, when people talk about adultery, they think it's a two-way street, where if a woman, cheats on her husband, but then the man cheats, not even cheats, goes with another woman, then that's adultery too. No. All right. Let's go into the word adultery in the transliteration, in the Hebrew. Okay. What does it say? All right. What does it say? What does it say? Nawaf. Okay, that's what it is. Adultery. All right. When you go into the definition, it says a woman that breaketh a wedlock. That's what it is. Okay. A woman that breaketh wedlock. All right. Because what adultery is, and really, both genders are involved in this as well. All right, because, it's a woman that is married and she goes and lays down with another man, that she doesn't obviously belong to. So really, it starts with the man. The man gets judged and the woman gets judged too. They both get stoned. They both get put to death. All right, the man for, sleeping with another man's a wife. All right, another man's possession, as the scripture says, he that getteth a wife getteth a possession. All right, and the woman for stepping out on her husband. Okay, that's what adultery is. All right, but adultery is not, adultery is not when a man is married to a woman and then he decides to get himself another woman. That is not adultery. All right, because guess what? The scriptures talk about this as well. All right, let's look it up. Another wife. It's in the law. Okay, let me see. Oh, yeah, right there. All right, Exodus 21:10. What does it say? If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. All right, now obviously we're not, in the ancient times. Okay, we're in this modern day, with this devil in rulership, and one thing he does is he goes against everything that is righteous. So it only makes sense that in a kingdom ran by the devil, all right, such stigmas will be put out there, such opinions and dogmas, because that's what that is. All right, that's a dogma. The notion that a man cannot have more than one woman because then it's adultery. That's a dogma. It's not based. It's not a biblical a fact. All right, it's not biblical. Okay, what it is these devils, they took our book. All right, because really this belongs to the Hebrew Israelites, so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans. But what these devils did is they took our book, put his face on it, and decided to, superimpose their false understanding. And really, it's not even false understanding. It's just literally their wickedness, man. Because they got agendas. Very much how they used to keep, so-called Negroes, which is the tribe of Judah, in the plantations, and they would give them, a small little version of a Bible, where it says, servants obey your masters. Until this day, you're going to have, Jakes out there that are going to say, oh, that's a man's book. That book was meant to keep us enslaved. No, man. That book was weaponized against us. This is just another example. All right. Why do you think, even in the world, the most successful men in the world, they have more than one woman? Even in the world, women do not mind sharing highly successful men. What woman is going to say, oh, I don't want to deal with Drake because he's had all these women? None. Matter of fact, they're going to be lining up. They're going to be lining up. All these women that line up in the tour bus for these rappers. Right now, one of them says, oh, I'm not going to do this because look at all the women that's over here and that's wicked and he's going to be dealing with more than one woman. It's really a big lie, and it's set up to oppress the Israelite man, the so-called black, Latino, and Native American man. That's the purpose of this whole thing. All right. But we're breaking down these strongholds through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. So continuing on, and it reads, if he take him another wife, this is what he has to do. Her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage, meaning you got to, satisfy her. All right. You can't just neglect her. All right. What does it say? Shall he not diminish? And that brings back to an original point that I made, earlier in the lesson. That's the only thing that, you could really say that's wrong in, as far as, having a side chick because, you're not fully dealing with her. You're not really, maintaining her. All right. But you can't blame us, man. Just look at the society we live in, Well, we're going to go and convince, all of Babylon, that this is right. No, man, this place is going to be destroyed. So, till then, you just, move wise as serpents, harmless as doves, as the scriptures tell us to do. Move expediently. If you're in a situation where, having multiple women is not expedient, then don't have multiple women, man. Deal with that one woman, but if you're in a situation where you could pull it off, pull it off. It ain't nothing, it ain't wrong. You just got to be in wisdom. All right. Because, hey, these women out here, man, they becoming more and more, scandalous, man. So you don't know, you see the social media videos, slashing out tires, keying up cars, because, hey, this is their kingdom, man, and then they want to have it their way, and their way is they don't want to share, but, hey, real soon they're going to be, they're going to have no choice but to share. All right. And that goes only for the elect man. All right. Because all these other dudes, they're not going to have the protection from on high. But that's, beside the point. All right. So let's go into these two examples. We're going to start with King David. All right. Beersheba. All right. So as we just read, it is allowed for us to have more than one woman. Now, what these Christians do, even though you bring these scriptures to them, you bring these scriptures to their attention, they will say, oh, well, it doesn't specifically say, then where there is no law, there's no sin. But they want to superimpose this oppression, all right, this wickedness, due to the fact that, so and so, ended up wrong because of this. Okay, well, let's dive into it. Did he truly end up wrong because he had more than one woman? All right, let's get it. Let me see. Was it Beersheba or Bathsheba? Man, hold on. King David. Whoops. Bathsheba. Okay, I got the name mixed up. Let me see, what chapter is it? It's 2 Samuel 11. All right, so let's exit out of this and let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 11. All right, and really, the story starts with in 2 Samuel chapter 11, but for the sake of the lesson, all right, we're gonna go to verse 12. Where basically, his judgment is gonna be read unto him. And ultimately, just to provide the context, all right, what King David did, is he he slept with one of his servants, woman. I think his name was let me see. Yeah, Uriah. All right, Uriah the Hittite. All right, so this is a woman, Bathsheba. This is a woman that was already married, and it's right here in verse 3, 2 Samuel 11 and 3. And David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, "Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" All right, so this was a married woman. Okay, so still, she, King David went in and laid down with her, knowing that she was married. All right, so let's continue on, and after this, what he did was he set up Uriah the Hittite, because he was one of his warriors, to go to the the craziest part of the battle, and he made sure, he appointed his men to make sure that he was killed in battle. So he put him in the most savage part of the battlefield, and he made sure that he was slain in battle. So this is where basically he gets his judgment from that. All right, so let me see. Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel chapter 12 and 7, literally the next chapter over. All right, so this takes place in a low, not in a low, but in a quick time span as far as the scriptures go. Okay, and that just goes to show you, man, that these Christians, they don't know what they're talking about, man. All right, because that was the real reason why King David got judged. All right, so let's start 2 Samuel chapter 12 and 7. And Nathan said to David, "Thou art the man." All right, because Nathan gave him, basically a similitude, and ultimately, he did this out of wisdom. All right, because when you're going up to the king, man, you're not just going to straight up, accuse him. No, King, Nathan had to, the prophet Nathan, he had to trap King David. He had to trap him, and that's the wisdom from on high. All right, so, and that's the Ruach HaKodesh, ultimately. All right, so 2 Samuel chapter 12 and 7. And Nathan said to David, "Thou art the man. Thus saith Yahweh Bashimi Hawashai, the power of Israel. I anointed thee king over Israel, and I delivered thee out of the hand of Saul." Right, so, when he had that situation with King Saul, all right, and ultimately, by that time he was already anointed to be a king, but, Saul was, still on the scene, and, that played out the way it played out. And here is King David, he's already the king. And then he goes and does this, right? Verse 8, "And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom." Now, mind you, look at what it says, wives. So that's cuts, man. The scriptures cut, consistently cut the notion that it is wrong for a man to have multiple women. Because here it is, the Lord is giving King David wives. All right, "And I gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives." into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah. And if that had been too little, I would moreover have given unto thee such and such things. So basically, the Lord is, Nathan, the Spirit of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua is rebuking King David, man. Because he had to go and take what belonged to another man. He could have prayed to the Lord and the Lord would have given to him, but that had happened the way it happened. Okay, so verse 9, wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua to do this evil in his sight? And what is this evil? Is it having multiple women? Let's read on. Thou hast killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. So where does it say having multiple women? Well, it would have said, because thou hast chosen to have more than one woman and commit adultery on your previous wife. It doesn't say that anywhere, man. It doesn't say that anywhere. But rather the crime that he did against Uriah the Hittite. All right. And has taken his wife to be thy wife. That's what it is. He committed adultery and set up his servant to get slaughtered out there, man. And that's wicked. And has slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Right. Verse 10. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house. And that's the judgment. And this is how unlearned these Christians are. Because they come and say, oh, well, King David, because he dealt with more than one woman, the Lord cursed him. And he said that he will never know peace and that the sword would not depart from his house. Why? And here it is in the very same verse. The very same verse. It says, because thou hast despised me and hast taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. That's adultery. He cursed him for committing adultery, for taking another man's possession, another man's woman. And furthermore, he set that man up. All right, he was a loyal soldier, a loyal warrior to King David. He set him up to die in the heat of battle. That's why he that's why he did that to him. That's why the Lord cursed him. That's why the Lord put that judgment on him. Okay? That's what it was. Not for him having multiple women. Because it would have said, oh, because, you weren't loyal to, your first wife and now, you committed adultery on her. It doesn't say that, man. All right. So that's the first example X'd out. And to further X out this example, all right, King David, wives. Let me see, or actually take the king part out because I believe this was before. Oh, yeah, right there. All right, so 2 Samuel chapter of 5 and let's start at verse, let me see. Yeah, 2 Samuel chapter 5 and 12. All right, and it reads, and David perceived that Yahweh Hashem Yahushua had established him king over Israel, and that he had exalted his kingdom for his people Israel's sake. Now, I believe this is after, the situation with King Saul transpired. King Saul, I think this is where he died. This is after the fact that he died. All right, let me see. Yeah, when Saul was king over us. Okay, yeah, so this is after King Saul's demise. So, David, the Lord, had anointed him to be king, the whole time. But, it wasn't until this time that he was actually able to take power. Okay. So continuing on, and it reads, all right, and it says, and he exalted his kingdom for his people's sake. So this, he took the throne. All right. Verse 13. And David took him more concubines and wives out of Jerusalem after he was come from Hebron, and there were yet sons and daughters born to David. All right, cool. So there it says he took wives, plural, and concubines, plural, which a concubine is, a second class wife. And that pertains only to women of the other nations, because we're not supposed to get married to them. All right, what a marriage is a covenant between your house and the father's house, that the woman, the family, that your family and the family that woman belongs to. Your house and the house that woman belongs to. A marriage is basically joining houses. That's why you would have your mother-in-law, your father-in-law. They would be considered like your family, and we're not family to these heathens, man. Okay, that's not, the Lord chose us to be a special people unto himself, above all other people in the world. All right, and really, when you go into that scripture, all right, Deuteronomy 7:6, it says holy. The Lord chose us to be a holy people unto himself, and the word holy means separate. Okay, so we have no business joining our houses with these heathens. All right, so what do? If we desire a concubine, hey, you deal with her, but she's not your wife. All right, and again, you maintain her and whatnot. But the marriage privileges does not extend to these other heathens. All right, so that's what it means, by concubines. He had women of other nations, and that also shows that having women of other nations is not going off, man. Okay, you could have women of other nations. Heck, especially in this society, in this day and age, with the state that our women are in. All right, hey, brothers, elder brothers, they would recommend dealing with a woman of another nation, man. Heck, even I'm looking towards that. But anyways, continuing on, and it reads, all right, and wives out of Jerusalem, after he was yet come from Hebron, and there were yet sons and daughters born to David. All right, and these be the names of those that were born unto him in Jerusalem: Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, and Solomon. All right, and the list goes on. All right, now I had to read the next verse because where in all this did it say, and King David did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and the Lord, for having more than one woman, and committing adultery on his previous wife, which I'm sure at that moment, he had more than one woman. So which wife did he commit adultery on at this point? None, because it's his God-given right. Okay, so now let's go to King Solomon. Hold on. First Kings chapter 3. All right. All right, just bear with me so I can narrow down the actual scripture. All right, okay, First Kings 11. See, I'm way off. All right, Salakia, First Kings 11. There it is. All right, so First Kings chapter 11 and 1. And it reads, but King Solomon loved many strange women. All right, and together with the daughter of Pharaoh, all right, because he married a Pharaoh's daughter. That's a Canaanite. That's the Egyptians, man. We're not supposed to be marrying, other nations, And it makes sense, why he had to marry her, because she's Pharaoh's daughter. Obviously, she's not gonna, she's not going to, become a concubine. That would just sever the diplomatic relations, I guess, at that time. But still, still off to marry another woman's, daughter. I mean, it's like another nation's women, man. All right, because now his house, which is the Israelite royalty is joined unto Pharaoh's house, which is a heathen. They don't worship Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, man. And furthermore, they're not of the stock of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, but continuing on, and it reads, women of the Moabites. So these would be the so-called Chinese women, all right, in the ancient times, and still, to this day, their nationality never changed. All right, but that's a true biblical, identity, their true biblical nationality. Ammonites, all right, same goes, but this is for the so-called Japanese. Edomites, the same goes, but this is for the so-called white people, right? White women, Japanese women, Zidonians, and Hittites, right? Of the nations concerning which Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai said unto them, unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come into you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods, right? So that's ultimately the main reasoning as to why, the Lord commanded us not to do that. Okay, basically, get married unto them. All right, because they're gonna, lead us away into idolatry. Now, if if it's the ancient times and you go to war with a nation and you take, spoils of war, you got a concubine, she's a second-class wife. She tends to your wives. She's beneath your wives, but you still got to look after her. Okay? Or she basically agrees to become a concubine, but she's not your wife. We had it like that, man. All right, because we were a royal people. We, especially back then when we was, in our right state of mind. I know, we were backsliding, but in certain periods when we were, in our right state of mind, and certain, because back then we were, we had a kingdom, man, and we would be operating according to the laws, statutes, and commandments, So when that happened, hey, we were on another vibration, another frequency. These women were, what heathen women wouldn't want to deal with an Israelite man, Continuing on in the read, especially that, Salakia. Not to cut it off, but especially that, here it is, even in our lowest state, Jake out here dealing with, Edomite women, the nation that's supposed to be on top right now. What's his name? Jay Electronica. He with a Rothschild, so-called Latinos with Edomite women. And here it is, we're at the bottom and they're at the very top. Even these other nations want to deal with, Israelite men. And hey, look, we're at our bottom. So imagine back then when we were rolling right and we had a kingdom and we were prospering, But the reason why, what does it say? For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. So it's not a matter of dealing with them, but more so a matter of idolatry. And Solomon clave unto these in love, you see? So he went off. He was going into idolatry, all right? And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart, all right? So that's what happened, okay? Not because, the act of having more than one woman is wicked. All right, see, what a Christian will do is he'll superimpose that dogma in this scripture. Oh, well, he had more than one woman, so, look what happened. His heart was turned away, and he went off into idolatry. You have to read between the lines. No, man. Okay, he dealt with these concubines, and in his mind, all right, he fell to this to idolatry, and really it was prophecy. All right, because what do the scriptures say? If he goes off, that he was going to be chastised by men, and that was supposed to come to pass, so that when he comes back when he came back in the reincarnation as Yahweh Shai, when he was on the scene, all right, that he was going to be put up on the cross. So either way, it was meant to be. Okay, but hey, again, these Christians, they don't know that. All right, they're not that deep into the scriptures, man. They just follow what the pastor tells them, But anyways, verse 4. For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord, with Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai his power, as was the heart of David his father. right? Because David was a man after the Most High's heart. And look, he had multiple wives, all right? The evil that he did was adultery, okay? And he already had multiple wives to begin with before, that happened, or when that took place. So it's not a question of having multiple wives. It's a question of, the other transgressions that they did. King David committed adultery. King Solomon committed idolatry, spiritual adultery, all right, spiritual fornication, going off into idols. That's what it was. All right, continuing on, and actually it's going to, expound on this. And Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, and went not fully after Yahweh Shem Yahushai, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. Right. So that's what happened, man. All right. He went off into idolatry. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And Yahweh Shem Yahushai was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned from Yahweh Shem Yahushai, the power of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. And that's the reason why he was mad. See, that right there is the key point right there. The Lord was angry with King Solomon because he went off, was turned away. He went off into idolatry. Not because he had all these wives. Okay, yeah, they had a role to play, as far as, turning his heart away. All right, but that came with the mentality that he should, that's basically the mentality. It was meant to happen due to prophecy. All right, and even then, in case you wanna have some room to, to not suck it, in case to not even leave out any room for these wacky tacky Christians, even then, in the ancient times, if you're gonna deal with a heathen woman, you gotta understand that she's gonna, be into whatever idol she into, but you worship Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And if she try to seduce you, you gotta chastise her, man. Matter of fact, push Yahweh Shem Yahushai on her. That's what it is. That's the mindset, man. To keep them in order, not them keep you. Sorry, not them keep you, but not them, seduce you. It's all about mental fortitude. And how strong you are. As the scripture says, there are many be that run out of their wits for women. So if you're, a simpleton, and you were a simpleton in the ancient times, you probably would let a concubine seduce you into idolatry. But if you were strong, you were strong in the faith, and you basically a man, in your proper, mentality, raised upright in the scriptures, you would never let a woman, a concubine, a heathen woman at that, seduce you into, worshiping these other idols. And it did happen. It happened to King Solomon. That's why I say that, But hey, it never said, hey, look at King David. King David had concubines. We read it. All right, we read that. And never did it once say that his heart was turned away from the Lord. So it's not even that, man. It's just the mindset that you have. All right. But anyways, verse 10, and he commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not which Yahweh Shem Yahushai commanded. Okay. So that's what it is. All right. Wherefore Yahweh Shem Yahushai said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant or my statutes which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding in thy days, I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but will rend it out of the hand of thy son. So that's what happens. All right, howbeit I will not rend away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to thy son for thy servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. And this is really, marked, the downfall of Israel, really, because from there it was, it went downhill. The kingdom split from the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom went into idolatry. The southern kingdom, they had wicked kings. They went into idolatry too. The northern kingdom got taken away into captive by the Assyrians. Then they had to go to this side of the world, and from then, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom were split, man. Then the southern kingdom had to be over there, and stayed out there in Jerusalem. And we had, I had all them captivities, man. From there it was just a downward, a spiral. But why was it so? Because King Solomon went off. He went into idolatry. All right, it's all prophecy's sake, man. Okay, at the end of the day, but these are the reasons why, this happened. Okay, so again, did men of the Lord, did they end up bad? All right, did they, did they end up in a terrible place for having multiple wives? No. Okay, because having multiple wives is not a sin. So with that, I'm gonna say, call halal Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahawashi, Ba'ashim Ruach HaKodesh, for giving me the spirit to do this lesson, and willing this lesson was edifying. All right, with that, I'm gonna say shalom. On to the next.